Thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you, Sophia, Pilar, Yin, and Thomas, who is not here, for the invitation. And welcome to the last panel of the day, right? Yes, okay. So I'm just going to read everybody's biographies. And just so you know, the format for today's panel is Cengiz and Sophie will start with presentations on their practice, brief presentations. Then we'll enter discussion. And when we have nothing to say, we will ask Jeroen over there to launch a trigger slide. So the speakers have been asked to prepare some slides to trigger conversation. So yeah, that's what's going to happen. So I'll read the biographies. Sophie Douala is a Berlin-based, France-raised, and Cameroon-born art director and visual artist, specialized in storytelling and creative campaigns. Cengiz Mengüç is a Rotterdam-based graphic designer and visual artist whose current practice moves between commissioned design work, self-initiated research projects, cultural programming, and making flyers for shisha lounges. My name is Clara Balaguar. I'm originally from the Philippines and moved to Rotterdam 3.5 years ago. I often describe myself as a cultural worker and grey literature circulator who builds and publishes curriculums at BAK, Basis voor Actuele Kunst, Willem de Koning Academy in the Social Practices Department, Piet Zwart Institute at Experimental Publishing, and Sandberg Institute at the Dirty Art Department. So yeah, who wants to, you want to do paper, rock, scissors to see who goes first?
I don't know which one of the presentations is ready. Ah, that's me.
Okay. Ladies first.
My name is Cengiz Mengüç. I'm a graphic designer and visual artist based in Rotterdam. My slideshow contains some work of the past years. I consider my practice really as a mix of different things that moves between doing commissions for art and cultural institutions, as well as having multiple side jobs, doing commercial work, working on projects with friends, organizing events, and doing self-initiated research projects. At this moment, I'm trying to focus on making new work based on my ongoing research into design and advertising practices in Turkish-Dutch communities and the different migrant design cultures that are hosted in the streets of Rotterdam as well as other European cities. Trying to understand how design is constructed and how cultural and diasporic identity and heritage is expressed in these kind of everyday spaces. This interest started while I was studying graphic design in Arnhem, and at the same time was working at the dinner kebab shop of my dad and like helping him out, like making his logo, signage, and menu cards and so on. And after my studies, I ended up working in a local advertising studio and sign maker in Rotterdam West, doing advertising and making signages for local small businesses, mostly migrant-owned, like street bakeries, barber shops, car repair shops, shisha lounges, and so on, as you also see in some work in the slideshow. And this was like a really low-key, street-level, small open studio where people would just walk in and you would often make things on the spot. And after graduating from an art school and being trained as an autonomous graphic designer, here I really had to unlearn a lot of things and translate my practice to adopt a different way of working that was more hands-on and pragmatic, working under different circumstances in which design was being produced. And still my practice really moves between these different worlds, and I try to incorporate these different languages and approaches to design from these different worlds through which I move. Exploring and adopting different ways of working together, unlearning, collaborating, doing my own research, working both for and with art institutions, but as well working and conducting research on the streets, which I all consider like a really open and ongoing process. Yeah, that was my presentation.
Yeah, I would love to say a few words before we start the video. So my name is Sophie Duala, and first of all, I'm super happy to be here. So thank you for the invitation, because it's the first time that I get invited to a panel to talk and to tell my voice. So I really appreciate that. I had a few things that I wanted to tell in regards to this panel and for you to understand my work. So and I was, I was a bit afraid to be nervous. So I just prepared a video. It's 3 minutes, and yeah, and then I'm happy to take on questions about it. Hi, my name is Sophie Duala. I'm a visual artist and graphic designer based in Berlin. I was born in Cameroon and grew up in France. My work is an ongoing exploration of sensations, feelings, and concepts. But also, when working with clients, I try to reflect on their intentions and messages and translate that with a graphic language. Observe, state, question, the essence, interpret, intention, represent, perceptions.
What is your approach to design?
My journey is part of my personal identity. And as such, my work is a mediator of that same identity. The way I approach design is to question. Through this curiosity and openness, I find progress. My experience has taught me that collaborating on branding is not only a series of negotiations, but also an exchange of shared values and identities. Is my work ethic a magnifying glass of my own quest of identity? Is it a way to claim my space? To fight against the lack of representation I have suffered from? Perhaps. Within my work, I found a craving for building communities, challenging the status quo, and pushing boundaries.
Thank you. I guess, yeah, because your presentation was the most recent. I was listening, I wasn't texting people, I was writing down. But yeah, you mentioned that your approach to design is to be a mediator of identity. It's very intimate to mediate somebody's identity, or even if that somebody is a corporate entity. How do you build trust in order to be allowed to do that?
So maybe the first clarification is that I guess I meant that it was a mediator of my own identity. So whenever, I guess like what I try to say is that I am my work, basically.
Yeah. What about you? Because you also work with, Cengiz works with like let's say, a set of clients that perhaps a modernist educated graphic designer from a fancy school would not generally work with. So yeah, how do you build trust with your clients in order to mediate their identity?
So yeah, I think this this sense of trust is mostly already there because you were referencing to the advertising studio, which is run by a Turkish guy, Mesut. Shout out to him.
Yes.
So there, I noticed while working there, there's already this this understanding and this trust as both like the clients and both the owner of the advertising studio were like have a migrant background or are people of color that are I don't know that in a way already understand each other and trust each other and also prefer to do business with each other in my experience at least, and also me being like having Turkish, Dutch background, I feel I can quite easily, yeah, like understand and adapt to this like social situation that's happening, and also yeah, I don't know, with my own background and also in the design work that I have done. I think quite soon can establish this like mutual understanding of what what the client wants and build this certain trust. Yeah.
And what clients do you usually work with? Like, what's the gamut?
So I worked a lot with musicians. I did a lot of brand identity for music labels and for musicians. But lately, I've taken much more commissions with collectives or organizations that have a certain message. And I think it has, of course, affected the process of working, kind of also related to your question about trust. Also, in my approach, I believe that I work a lot with my community. So, okay, I have also international clients, but I try to work within my connections and to also help people that I know who have projects. I try to also help them develop this. I don't know if I should say some examples of that, or is this?
Do you have any examples? Or
in the presentation, I don't have example, but I have an example in my mind. That's something that would fit.
Could you describe it?
Yeah, of course, because I think like what is also interesting is the process of that collaboration. So even less than the final creation. So one project that I wanted to talk about today, for instance, is the Open Music Lab. They are a music school in Berlin, and they're offering free music workshops to minorities in priority. And my friend has launched that project, and I really wanted to find a way to support their project. So I decided to create a t-shirt that we would sell, and I proposed her the project, and I said maybe we could share, that we could help each other to promote the design and this, and then share the profit of it. So it was in a way like maybe not the usual client who come to you with a proposition, but me as a designer coming to someone that I trust to then propose a project that would benefit both of us.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing when working with like in affective circles, with friends, with family, and yeah, also Masoud's clients, because yeah, I've met Masoud and he's amazing. We've visited a couple of times. But yeah, there is a certain, or there are different financial rules, I think, when working in affective circles. So yeah, maybe Cengiz, it would be interesting if you could, yeah, describe or have you, what are the different financial structures that you have encountered when working in close affective circles as a designer? Without revealing too much about gray financial practices.
I guess it has also to do with the issue of trust. First of all, I think so. I work like as I said in the introduction as well, like both in like art and cultural world, and as well in this advertising world. I've worked for a bit, and I think the main difference is like design is produced under such different circumstances with different time frames and different financial like budgets. So it's really technical, let's say. So if you want a light box or some LED light advertising, it's just very practical. That has a certain price to it, you know, the material costs, and then like a little is added for the design of it. As far as I can tell from my experience, a lot is also, it's like gentleman's agreement. So just by word, hoe zeg je dat? Word of mouth. Just a basic understanding and trust of we're gonna work together. This is what we agreed on that day. You said this. Simple.
That's true.
And no, I don't know. No, I'm not gonna.
Okay.
Too much detail.
All right. We won't reveal any like underground financial practices. But I had maybe a more general question in terms of like, you're both multicultural, diasporic designers working in many different contexts, and I can't help but think about the design canons that we have been fed through our education, through mass media, and how those interfere or contradict with our own experience of being excluded from those canons. So my general question to the both of you, I wish we had a buzzer so that you could, buzz in first. But do you want to be let into the canon, or would you rather they do away with the canon altogether? 1, 2, 3, go.
Can you repeat? I didn't understand get the last
part. Do you want to be let into the canon? So do you want this like different experience or different form of representing your identity through design? Do you want that to be considered as part of the canon, or would you rather we throw away the canon altogether and start from scratch?
Yeah, I would say that I think we can't, or we should not erase anything that has happened. It's more of a continuity. I think we, as collaborative workers, are working towards changing something rather, and so basically what I'm trying to say is that we are sorry, I got lost.
It's all right. We can take a breath. Cengiz, would you like to jump in? Maybe, okay, you were talking about collaboration.
Yeah, no, can you just say one more time the question,
okay.
please?
Do you want to be let into the canon, into the design canon, or do you want us to throw away the canon and start from scratch?
So I guess what I try to say is that we are getting in the canon by ourselves. It's not someone who's letting us in. It's like we are doing the work of like creating some changes, creating maybe more awareness. So I wouldn't even say that it's about getting in or getting out. It's just like kind of multiple groups that are, you know, playing a role, a different role. Yeah, that's what I want to say.
That was good.
Yeah, I also agree with that. I think I think it's time for the canon to also, to definitely also incorporate like these different voices in design, and not only like, I don't know, like getting stuck in like one kind of conversation, but I also feel at the same time, these different like worlds of design and different discourses that are going on, they can just be, and they can here and there overlap. And as I said, I quite like to be flexible, to just move between like different worlds and different discourses. But yeah, I guess for future generations, or like in at least from the design like education where I come from, it's definitely good to have more voices, more approaches, more methods than just often one that it often is.
Yes. Speaking of more voices, does anybody have any questions for the panelists? Yes. Okay. Yeah, it's okay.
It's a question to Cengiz. It's a funny question. Maybe it's not funny.
We'll be the judge of that.
I have visited Istanbul and also seen shisha or durum shops everywhere, and I have this sensation that the identity is really seen by its capital letters, or the use of capital letters. And it's weird because, for example, for me in chatting, when you start writing in capital letters, it's like you're screaming. It's like you're ah. How is it perceived, capital letters, in the Turkish identity? Do you scream while you use these capital letters, or?
Very often. No, I don't know. I am also, I definitely share the same observations, and I really think it also fits with a kind of maximalist approach to design. And from like European perspective, I can definitely understand how this is like really bold or shouting even. But I don't know actually if it's like a Turkish thing. Yeah,
I can add. I mean, from the Philippines, which is, all caps script was actually with. I also have a publishing house and design. It's called Hardworking Good Looking, and I worked a lot with a couple of Filipino American graphic designers, and also doing a lot of street research, so trying to, instead of looking towards the West for inspiration, kind of taking the streets, what was around us, as the first point of departure for a design brief, essentially. And so what that entailed was basically trying to identify a new taxonomy of moves, basically, and try to understand why these moves were there. So all caps script is, I think, maybe post-colonially, or I don't know if post-colonial, but it's a common thing. My amateur, maybe not, my amateur kind of interpretation is the fact that sometimes they're using all caps. It's like also the quotation marks. So those are just ways to make something stand out a bit more. So like it's funny when you see quotation marks being used in a sign, it looks like people are being ironic, but they're actually not. They're just saying, look at me. So all caps is basically look at me, and then combined with the script typeface, which is like, ooh, fancy, curvy, I like it. So not sans serif, something that expresses identity actually, or fluidity, or maybe penmanship, so something that expresses something human. And with designers who don't know that that's wrong, and then that turns into kind of like an error plus a practical function, turns into a new language. So that's my nods, I think.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions?
It's a question for Cengiz. Maybe you are familiar with this, but I mean, there have been like a few studios, I think also here in the Netherlands, that have taken like the general kebab shop logo and make T-shirts out of it. What do you think? Are you following this? Do you think it's like a scene that is trying to recuperate this language and making it hip, or like how do you see this phenomenon? Thank you.
Oh, interesting question. I definitely seen it, and it's also not the first time. I think it's from all time. It's things I think are always there, but I always try to, for myself, look who's behind it and what is the intentions of it. Like a lot of. It's not obviously like this, and not only this, like a lot of aesthetics are appropriated and taken, it's really who's behind it and what's the purpose of it, I think for a lot of people or even institutions or brands, it's very easy to like take some aspect of a visual culture to to do their thing with it. I think it's important to also consider or understand the culture behind it, and something like that.
Well, maybe this segues a bit into one of my other questions, which maybe is, first it would be nice to hear from the panelists, but if anybody else from the audience actually has an answer to this question, it would be, okay, you had a, well, I started already, so hold that thought, maybe, and then we can, because now, okay, anyway. We'll come to you. I see you. But my question, I think, to the world at large is, what nuance can we add to the politically familiar views as opposed to politically correct, because it's unlikely that humans will agree on what is correct. So what nuance can be added to the politically familiar views around the issue of cultural appropriation?
Just let it sink in.
Go ahead.
I mean, I've been thinking about this question of cultural appropriation a lot. And personally, I see already inside me kind of two way of thinking. So I see, when I think with my heart has been offended, my heart has been, suffered from things, and my response is very emotional towards it. So, but when I start thinking with my head, then my head is much more about bringing more awareness, and also I think it's also kind of weird to forbid something. I don't know, like this idea of forbidding something. I think it's my head doesn't really quite understand that. So I was thinking that maybe if actually there would be more diversity, I wonder if the question of cultural appropriation would even exist. Yeah, so that was.
For purposes of the recording, she said, "I think it's never said," and I think that's good. And there was an applause. Yeah, I like that you mentioned thinking with your heart. Like, I think, yeah, the heart is connected, or
to memories,
yeah,
to so many things, you know. But yeah, I was really reflecting on this, and I think like if we manage to, you know, bring more diversity within everything, basically. So that means more communication, more different backgrounds, more different cultures coming together. Then there will be more understanding. So I think the understanding and the respect is really something that would facilitate this.
Do you have any nuance to add, Cengiz?
I think one thing that is overlooked often is also the issue of class, because like what's well, at least like my little corner, it's yeah, it is a working class migrant like visual culture that I'm working with, at least, and also in regard to your question earlier. This also has to be taken in account. Like there's so many layers to it. You know, it's like culture, but definitely also not forget class.
Anybody have? We are not the harbingers of all wisdom. So if
No,
anybody has any nuance to add. I mean, I guess, like, yeah, when I think about cultural appropriation and the sort of strict lines that are enforced, yeah, the first thing I think of is we do talk a lot about intercultural appropriation, but for me, there is such a thing as intracultural appropriation. Like, for example, again, always speaking from my personal experience, coming from the Philippines, where yeah, post-colonial country whose identity has been kind of decimated by 300 years of colonization by 4 different colonizers. So the issue of class, so for example, a lot of people talk about decolonizing as a return to the indigenous. In the Philippines, we have indigenous alphabets that were killed by colonization. They're called alibata. And people are trying to sort of bring in alibata as kind of the standard, or like a flag for decolonizing design aesthetic, but these are indigenous forms, and most of the Philippine population is not indigenous. So we do have to be careful. It's not just because we're Filipino we have access and recourse to certain indigenous knowledges. We have to be careful also with the issue of class, and it's a moving scale of privilege, I think. And here in the West, people of color may feel that they're disprivileged, but then measuring with the homeland or the home country, or if there even is a home country, like to consider these moving scales of class. And also, I guess, as a final point to my soapbox, I would say, cultural appropriation discourse coming from the West is sometimes, to me, feeling like a discourse around cultural purity, which is, perhaps even more dangerous. So that's the bomb that I have just dropped in the room. How does this feel to the two of you?
Want to go first? Yeah. No, definitely. I when you said it feels like a moving scale. I also recognize it, and it also, like, at least for me, it's really something I should really stay in touch with. Also, just feeling, just how you feel about certain things and connections, and like staying true to that yeah, to yourself basically, and this is very, this can vary. This changes a lot basically, like in different situations and in different, also as you, I don't know, like as you grow older, or I don't know, like certain situations change in your life, because we also should definitely keep in check with our own privileges, and these things can also change, like, and that's, yeah.
Yeah, I can really relate to stay true to yourself. I think this is something that is quite important, but also requires a lot of energy somehow. I like some 2 years ago or so, I had to say no to a project that like it's a company that's been very recently called out. They had been called out for abusing some of their POC workers, and they reached out to me to do an illustration for one of their products, and I was at this moment I was really trying to understand, first of all, like what they were trying to do at this particular time of being called out and then reaching out to me, but I was still open for dialogue. I was still open for dialogue. I didn't want to reject it straight away, and we had a few email exchanges, and actually I wrote a reply with very specific question, and I wanted to know a little bit more of how they were handling the situation, and I wanted to know more about who was still part of the company, who was in charge, who had the power, and I was really hoping for them to, you know, open up in a like just open up basically, but their reply was so mechanical. It was for me it was a copy and paste of anything you can find on on any website online. And I felt super hurt about it. I was super pissed, you know, because I was like, yeah, you still, I mean, what is the point of just saying very generic things while I'm actually asking you for something a bit more in depth? And this is the first time that I had to reject this. That I rejected a project because I felt like I would not be true to myself, because I felt like I didn't trust them, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it creates like this culture of fear. I'm thinking of like once when we worked with some students on a project dealing with some articles from an archive in the Philippines. So this archive in the Philippines gave us 250 publications for students here to build into, so for the students to build a framework for an archive. And I mean, that's the contradiction of like, yeah, people say, oh yeah, let's decolonize the curriculum, whatever, and then you bring decolonial or extra-colonial or non-canonical material to the classroom. And what's shocking, sometimes, or not shocking, but like painful, is that from the students who you think would be your allies, brilliant students, informed students, very, very like awake, some of them were saying, well, I don't want to engage with this material because of cultural appropriation. And it's like, well, this is, you know, you're being given permission from an archive to use these documents. So yeah, there's this fear that, I mean, it's good to instill the fear of God in certain people, but sometimes I think it's, it creates this impossibility to speak people to people, and we lose the lens of intention often.
Yeah, definitely. It's like also what can you add, you know, and not just what can you take.
Yeah, and I feel like, I mean, in this panel, which is, I think, to me, quite diverse, like, it's nice to be able to talk about these things without having to be like, disclaimer, like, cis male white person on the panel, this is not for you. So it's, nice to be able to speak about this. Well, yeah. Hi, everybody. You're also here, but yeah, it's nice. I think this is very different from kind of panels I've been in other symposiums. Yin Yin, you had a question.
Oh, yeah, that was about actually.
On the spot.
I was just curious about your work actually. So I'm maybe taking it a bit out from the cultural appropriation topic. I know Cengiz's work a little bit from being in Rotterdam and also having worked together for Mesut, the legend of Rotterdam West. But I was very intrigued by the short presentation and the work you showed. Also the way you showed it, I thought that was very refreshing. You know, after a day of conferences, it was nice that you made this this edit. Yeah, your work, which I hope to see more from later when I do a little, when I look online, look up a little bit more. I was just wondering, actually, where your inspiration comes from. It's very eclectic. It's very colorful, very refreshing. So I was just wondering, yeah, where do you take inspiration from?
I guess my inspiration comes a lot from the things that I experience, the people that I meet, the conversation I have, the place I go to, and there is this thing as well where I'm quite of a thinker, so I reflect a lot on a lot of things. And I mean, I didn't talk so much in depth about my work, but it's actually quite conceptual in that sense that, there is a concept behind the choice of colors, the choice of patterns, the choice of layout. So it also comes to the moment when I talk with my clients and I'm trying to understand what is their message and what do they want to show. And it's kind of an interpretation, a visual interpretation of this. And there is also something that I've always tried to convey somehow. It's true, it's some sort of a good energy. I think I'm someone who is very communicative when I'm not nervous. And so I have, I'm trying to share some of that energy also through my work and to reflect that. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any more questions from the...
Hi, thank you so much. This panel has totally made my day. I have so many questions.
Wow.
Many of them are also about Dürner. I will say, Cengiz, I've always wanted to start a publication called Dürnerblatt that would like review Dürners, and so this is the first time that I've seen graphic design and Dürner come together in such a beautiful way. But I just want to ask. Really? That's great. That's great. I never got to it. There were too many other projects. But I wanted to ask. Maybe I'll ask Sophie just a follow-up question, and then also Cengiz a question. Sophie, I was just curious. I'm also so intrigued by your work and very excited that you're in Berlin because that's where I am, and hopefully I can follow up with more. But I'm curious to hear more about your own artistic or creative training and how that influences the work that you do. So that would be my question very basically for you. And Cengiz, my question for you is actually, it's actually, and I don't mean this in any way with irony, I actually mean, what is it? It's interesting that your father or your parents or family owns a Dürner restaurant, and I'm curious, what have you learned about graphic design from the business of Dürner, and from even the on a structural level? And then I'll just add a random comment in there, which is just this
But
whole...
maybe we can deal
Yeah,
with the
sorry.
2 questions.
Yeah, sorry about that.
All
sorry.
right,
Yeah.
it's all right. Sid, is your name Sid by any chance? Yes. Okay, Prem. Yeah, I think anyway. Yeah, Sophie.
Thanks for the question. So maybe, to give a little bit background about myself. I studied in Paris in art school, Olivier de Serres. I studied, I had this one preparatory year of exploring many things. And then I had a bachelor in point of purchase advertisement, which is basically graphic design in 3 dimensions for different shops or brands. And after that, I traveled to Dublin. I had a 1-year exchange at the Dublin Institute of Technology in graphic design. And this is where I think their approach was a little bit more experimental than my actual school, because my school was quite strict, actually. And then I moved to Berlin, and I had an internship in a graphic design studio that I applied for. And I will say that in this studio, this is where I really started to develop my own practice, because I had a lot of freedom. And this also coincided with the moment when I moved to Berlin. So it was basically me discovering a new culture, a new architecture, a new everything. And so I was really into this exploration mood. And I guess that's how it all started.
Your question for me was what I learned from my dad's doner kebab shop, right? For graphic designer. Wow, I learned a lot. First of all, how to make OG doner. Maybe it's time for my trigger slide. Now the other one.
The other one.
Let's see.
Yeah. So this is actually the only picture I have left from that period of my dad. This is like it doesn't exist anymore, by the way. But this is the facade of my dad's doner kebab shop in Apeldoorn, Cafetaria Zumra. And yeah, what I learned was that, I was still studying graphic design. I studied it in Arnhem at Artes. And so my dad asked, can you make the logo? I need some menu cards. I need something for the window. So I was like, sure. So I came with this, idea of a graphic identity and what it should be. This what's the name? This consistent unit, entity, of a graphic identity should have a concept, some rules, some consistent style, and so on. So I made him his logo. I made his things, and every time I would also work in the shop, by the way, from time to time. And I remember every time visiting the shop, something else has changed. So he would get this new sponsorship with Coca-Cola, and then he had these template designed stickers on his window, or he get branded merchandise from the food brands, or he would make self-made flyers in Microsoft Word, So I learned about because we're talking about identity tonight. So I really learned about what other things a graphic identity could be. A graphic identity, or a corporate identity, it could have maybe 3 logos instead of 1, or it could have incorporate different styles. It's really this. At my dad's shop, it really became this collage of that was a reflection of the everyday running a cafeteria of a reflection of like everyday hustle, basically, which is much more like a true and direct reflection of the shop and its actual identity. So that's some stuff I learned, and later on also while working at this Rotterdam-based advertising studio.
I also have like this so I'm thinking about liberating the means of representation, and I'm thinking about templates and layperson software. So usually we think of like a corporate identity. When you design it, it's something unique, it's something special, you need a special software, it's something that nobody else has. But what I think is also quite interesting is this idea of placing in the hands of the clients, or creating systems that can be placed in the hands of the clients through templates, through standard formats, through popular software that they can later kind of manage on their own. So yeah, I was wondering, just throwing that out. I mean, I know you have research ongoing on this topic called Radical Inkjet, and A4, the A4 template as a liberatory framework for design. So maybe segue into, what's the role of, the templates in the creation of a unique identity?
Should I go first?
Yeah, go for it.
But you're nodding too. You're like, I'm going next.
I have something to say.
Yeah. You want to go first?
No, go first.
What's the role of templates? I think a lot of people can make like a lot of amazing stuff themselves these days. Like even with in-app tools. I don't know. In Instagram, you can basically make a flyer, or yeah, I say yes to that. I don't know, I like it. Like
you want to talk more about some of this stuff,
Radical
like
Inkjet.
Yeah, Radical Inkjet and A4 is like this.
Yeah, that is basically like this. So in my iPhone, I like take a lot of photos on daily basis of stuff I see on the street, and one of the folders I called Radical Inkjet, and it's just this collection of inkjet printed A4 flyers, often like designed in Word, Microsoft Word. That is, also an exploration of like how, this template culture. So how the outcome of if you make something, how that is like induced by software. If you make something in Microsoft Word, it looks differently than when you make something in Adobe program or other programs. And how this form follows really this this software, and I really it really shows like all the different things you can do apparently with Microsoft Word, and all the hidden effects, and but also like so I'm really but also how software that is not meant to be used for design are used actually to make design. I mean, Word is a text editing software.
And you wanted to add?
Actually, your question just made me think of one recent project that I've been working on, and I thought it could be interesting to share it, but I don't have really pictures yet, but also in that sense, because it is a sort of a modular brand identity. So it happened because I was in touch with this client who needed branding for their series of podcasts. And throughout the whole communication, I could understand that they had a craving actually for also being creative within this project. They're a handballer, a professional handballer, and they're taking 1 year break to focus on other questions about more philosophical questions about themselves. And so when I was working on this brand identity, I was really trying to find a way that as a client, they will be able as well to play with it, also to fulfill that side that they're also want to explore. And so it was quite interesting in the process because I created a sort of a template with more of a process to create a template. And within this process, they will be able to just create so many different templates and play with the text, still play with some of the graphics that I created, but on their own. And then we even had a little design workshops that I was showing them how to use Illustrator, and I prepared a little notice of how they can play with it. And now I can see on Instagram like that they're just, playing with things, having fun, and I think it's quite nice because it's a work that I've created, but then it's kind of has also a way to evolve within the space of my client, and for them to also improvise with it.
Yeah. Like I think the way that design is taught is about, or design around identities is taught is like to homogenize, to standardize, to control. I think it's interesting to have this philosophy of really a loss of control, and allowing the client to own their designs by participating, and to identify with their own identity, which is quite interesting. Maybe we can do like maybe it's time for another trigger slide. We can maybe see Sophie's trigger slide. Is that yours?
No, unfortunately,
Next one.
I didn't bring.
You didn't?
I forgot.
Oh, your presentation was your trigger.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Or maybe this trigger slide. Wait, last one. Last one before.
It's a video.
That one?
Yeah, this one.
Ooh, can we play the? Ooh, it's a video. Okay, sorry. Okay, it's a.
So
is it
yeah.
playing? Oh yeah, could you play it? Thank you. Sorry, didn't understand it was a video.
We are. My microphone is not on. We are looking.
There.
Hello. Yeah. We are looking at some photos of the Schiedamseweg in Rotterdam. And this is like a process from the last 5 years, I think. What happened here was this was some sort of gevel aanpak / schoonmaakactie aanpak, which was, if I understand correctly, pushed by the gemeente to the lokale ondernemersvereniging, so local organization of business owners in this street. And the street is really known for its, it has a high migrant population and a lot of like small businesses, like catering to this, to all these local communities. And it was really, I love this street. It has amazing shops, amazing food, amazing shop signs. But somewhere like some years ago, they decided to remove all the original shop signs and replace it for like one standardized identity for the whole street, which includes like a gray facade thingy with like white typography on top of it. And now every shop has the same logo signage basically, and it was to attract attract customers, make it more attractive,
aspirational also.
Yeah, make it also more clean, because apparently it was like too loud or too aggressive, too messy, to just name some terms that I've read in because this whole process was documented very well in like local newspaper, like local communications. So I think, yeah, if we talk about identity, that is also being translated into like visual everyday culture and design. I just think it's an interesting case study, like what happens here, and what also can be like the dangerous part of like of this like popular idea of identity, what is like, and also the hyper focus of like Dutch policy making on what of like having like everything should be like one consistent identity, right? Yeah.
The street is now colorblind, Union says. It's post-racial.
It's black and white. Yeah.
What is this trigger for? What is this trigger for other people in the room? Sophie?
All caps.
It's all caps as well, we have from the audience. But all mostly white letterings. It's ugly. That's not me, that's somebody in the audience, that's Karen.
And by the way, this not only happens in Schiedamseweg, you see this at almost, a lot of neighborhoods happening, similar processes of gentrification.
I mean, I don't have a lot to say about it, but the first thing that comes to my mind is Paris, because in Paris everything is very homogeneous. There's so many rules into what you can or can't do into facade of a building, it looks very clean. It looks very homogeneous. It looks very clean. And I compare it to Berlin, when there is no rules at all. And the city has quite of a different feeling when you walk into. So I would say more freedom.
Anyone else? Oh,
Yeah.
here we go.
Oh.
Can we have a microphone?
Wait, oh.
You can use mine, actually, here.
Tu peux le dire en français, ensuite je traduis.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Moussa.
Bonjour Moussa.
Ce que tu as dit, c'est magnifique. Ce que tu as dit, c'est magnifique. Mais je crois que je suis plus fort que vous.
Oh oui, certainement.
Parce que chez nous, Afrique, tu as ton paquet, tu fais ce que tu veux. Tu prends une flèche, tu fais flèche. Mon papa, il est commerçant. Mon papa, il est commerçant. Donc, il a une flèche. Il a mis ça devant le comptoir avec une hache.
Je peux traduire?
Ouais.
Et il vend son vin. Parce qu'il adore ça.
So what you said was super interesting, or magnifique, wonderful. But Moussa, hi, I'm Moussa. Moussa thinks he's stronger than you, or going further. In Africa, people do what they want. So his father had a shop. When you want to draw an arrow, you do it, and by hand. Et ensuite, tu voulais dire autre chose?
Oui. Ça veut dire pourquoi je dis que l'Afrique noire c'est plus fort. Tu fais ton graphiste comment tu veux. Il y a qui travaille, qui vend un logo, mais toi aussi, tu n'es pas obligé d'acheter. Tu fais ce que tu veux. Tu prends un marteau, tu fais devant la porte. Tu prends un gant boxeur, tu mets devant la fenêtre là-bas. Tu prends voilà, une carafe d'eau. Le truc là, on met l'eau. Oui, les calebasses. Tu mets devant ton shop.
So there's maybe also a lot of handmade by the people who just own the shop. So many examples, like a calebasse or a thing in which you put water and stuff.
Une shop, tu vois une calebasse, c'est nomade, les Peuls. Moi, je suis Peul.
From the Peul people, for instance, nomadic people.
Les Wolofs, culture sénégale, les Wolofs, eux, c'est pirogue.
For Wolof, it's more like a small boat, pirogue.
Dans les paquets, dans les shops, les Wolofs Sénégal, c'est pirogue.
Ah, so they draw a pirogue, these small boats, as also a sign of which culture you belong to.
Oui. Et il y a aussi des commerçants, eux, c'est le marabout gris-gris. Ils ont leur photo marabout. Il y a aussi d'autres commerçants qui ont chapelet. Tu restes, tu vends, tu as ton chapelet dans ta main. Donc, chacun, il a sa design. Mais ici, c'est dommage, il y a l'argent, c'est beau, mais vous n'êtes pas indépendant. Vous tous, vous n'êtes pas indépendant parce qu'il y a personne qui n'ose pas faire ce qu'il veut. Mais moi, chez moi, Afrique, Sénégal, je fais ce que je veux, mais des belles choses. Ici, vous n'êtes pas indépendant. Tu as des limites, tu ne dois pas faire ça. Tu as des limites, tu ne dois pas faire ça. Tu as des limites, tu ne dois pas faire ça. Tu as des limites, tu ne dois pas faire ça. Mais Afrique, on fait ce qu'on veut.
So here there are more rules and less independence for doing things, it seems, and there it's more free.
Il n'y a pas d'assurance, il n'y a pas de mutuelle, travail. Pas de mutuelle, pas d'assurance. Travail. Après, tu fais ce que tu veux. Tu travailles, tu manges, tu ne travailles pas, c'est ton problème. Donc, pas de tu gares ici, tu ne gares pas ici. Il n'y a pas de mutuelle, il n'y a pas d'assurance, il n'y a pas de remboursement. Tu fais ce que tu veux. S'il y a remboursement, il y a mutuelle. Il y a qui? On te dit, mets là, tu mets là, tu mets là. Il n'y a pas de remboursement, il n'y a pas de mutuelle, il n'y a pas d'assurance, il n'y a pas d'hôpitaux. Après, on te dit, fais ça. Non, non. Non. Donc, État, il n'y a pas de mutuelle, il n'y a pas d'assurance, il n'y a pas gratuit, il n'y a pas logement, maison de logement, il n'y a pas. Donc, tu laisses les gens.
Ah, okay, yeah. The state is less, provides also less insurances and, oh, sorry, I forgot you said it 3 times, and this kind of things, but then the counterpart is then that, they just also leave you do stuff.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you.
Thank you for the input.
Yeah, I guess what you said, if I would rephrase it as there is more freedom in that sense of people are maybe like they build things more themselves, and within what they build there is much less rules in general.
We have another question. Is there anybody else who hasn't asked a question who would like to ask? If not, we can. Anybody else? All right.
Thank you. Yeah, just wanted to make 2 short comments. In all of this, there's a phrase that's been resonating in my head from the biodiversity activist Vandana Shiva, and she often talks about the production of uniformity. So what was interesting, Sophie, is you talked about bringing the diversity, and of course, this trigger image or video of this street, it shows that actually in many naturally occurring systems, diversity and difference is already the baseline, but it's the production of uniformity that superimposes these systems. And then in the two examples that both of you, Cengiz and Sophie, provided, Sophie with the templates that you created for your client or commissioner so that they could make them some things themselves and have fun with it, and Cengiz with the Dürner shop and how the identity was overlaid with these multiple layers, what resonates for me is that in the 1990s, there was so much of a discourse around variable identity systems and identity systems that could change, but so often they were still top down. They were still about the rules that the designer put in place that they believed that other people would enjoy, as opposed to the things like that were described that either brought people joy that they want to create, or the things that come out of an either economic or business necessity to overlay those things rather than it coming from the designer. So I really appreciate those examples. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we still have time for more questions? Yes?
If you have other questions, I can just...
No, it's your time to shine.
It's a question to you two, but going from something you said, Sophie, the thing that you said, thinking with your heart and thinking with your head, and I imagine that you two, knowing that you work with people who have the same, who share the same culture, the same language, the same maybe also values, sometimes. How do you work? Do you work with your heart? And how do you arrive to take this, find this balance between giving the heart, your passionate work inside the work that you're doing because it's related to your research, let's say, and your values, personal values, and also how do you interact with the reality of today where there's money inside and there's no compromise sometimes. Is it the heart or the head?
To who do you address it?
You two.
Okay. Yeah, it's quite of a tough question, but I think it's a bit of a mixture of both that is organically moving, not like one is predominant or the other is predominant, but it's rather a flow of the two of them trying to think. But of course, I work a lot with my heart because it's, like I said from the beginning, like in my work, I put so much of myself. So I will obviously, whenever I work with a client, like actually, whenever I work with a client, the thing that I love the most is the conversation that I will have with them and them presenting me their project and me wanting to support them. So this is the heart, I guess. But the head has to be there for more critical reasons because, yeah, it's hard, but I really try to reflect on everything whenever my client has an idea or wants something. It's not like I'm not gonna necessarily do it. I always say that, like, yeah, it's a bit of this conversion point between what my clients want and what I can offer as well. It's so. And I also try to educate my clients when they propose silly ideas that I think it's against my values. I am not going to move further, and I'm going to try to explain them why we could not do this. So yeah, it's a bit of an energy in between the two for me.
Wow. Yeah, really well said by Sophie. I can relate to that as well, as it being a mixture. Sometimes something is just there. In my case, I also like to do a lot of research and yeah, and work with certain ratio and certain rules, but then again also really play with that or like follow a certain intuition. And sometimes it really depends on the project as well. Sometimes it's also just there, you know, from it just it can also be very that.
I mean, I think instead of like trying to perpetuate this divide between the mind and the body or the mind and the heart, maybe it's useful to think of like the flesh, which is what happens when the mind and the body are connected through the realm of experience. So perhaps to think of, to think of a reaction that is fleshy, that has skin in the game, and that, responds not just to what you're feeling or what you're thinking, but also to what the room is giving you. And I would say, some clients, like, sometimes I think it's also useful to make a distinction between clients and constituencies, and maybe certain clients need to be educated, but perhaps constituencies do not. And what happens when the designer gives themselves over to a community, to a constituency, and doesn't tell them how they should represent themselves, but rather puts themselves at the service of how they want to be represented. It's this like responding to each situation. A client is different from a community or a constituency. I did have one, I think our time is almost over. We have 1 minute, according to my watch, and I wanted to ask the two of you one last question. Do you have like final lapidary words, like, or like, memeable last advice as to how to approach design of identities with love, since it is about affective graphic design?
I can start if you want. So I think, I've already mentioned a little bit, but the notion of building a community around you in your circle, I think it's something quite important for me. So not necessarily trying to... I need to think another second.
Okay. Cengiz, go. Think memeable.
Can you please repeat it one more time? Sorry.
Final last words, memeable advice on how to approach the design of identities with love. You're a meme lord. You can do this.
Well, I'm sorry. I also have to think about it. Just.
I guess I love to collaborate with my friends, for example. Anytime I can, I just try to bring them into my projects, and vice versa. So I think approaching with love is approaching with your communities, like building this together. I see in Berlin, within my friends, so many different projects developing that are into supporting the hood, supporting the minorities, supporting a few things. And I just love to see all these projects that maybe people started to build years ago, and now, coming into a conversion point where we all interact into the scene. So I would say collaborating with more love, maybe try to collaborate more with the people you trust.
I had to think about that. We are talking a lot about like client-based work this evening, but I know you make your own work. I do as well. I also collaborate a lot with friends, or I I just make stuff with friends. I do stuff in my own time. I take a lot of photos, and like not always they have like already a specific purpose in mind, or like it is it's just stuff that you do, or because I don't know, you like it, or you know. And I also I got to understand that this is, for me at least, really important to do, like and to also see the progression in that, or how that at some points also comes back to you or to your practice. So if maybe that's advice, like yeah, just doing stuff that you just do stuff. No, yeah, that it's also not everything has to be for a client, or not everything has to be a project. It can also be something that makes you happy, or that you don't know yet what it is gonna be, or what the purpose is of it, but then maybe in some time, and you don't need the art education for that.
All right, well, thank you so much, Cengiz and Sophie and everybody.
Hey, really thank you so much for this. Thank you, Clara, for stepping in for Thomas Castro, who, as I've mentioned in moments before, was quite influential in helping shape this conference. And I would like to just give a last round of thanks, and just say that the Skirami Vest, did I pronounce it correctly? Shijamish West example of that trigger image really it hurts, no? And I'm in that neighborhood as well, and I think that when we began this conference yesterday with a keynote of Irene Small, she talked about Malevich Black Square, and she related a new discovery in Black Square that pointed to a kind of anti-black form of racism that was already present, in his case, in Russia, and that he was aware. And she related it to a work by Elijah Clark, and to really look at how she mathematically, through her geometric abstraction, this Brazilian incredible artist that at the end of her life was also a therapeutic healer. She pulled out one line from her artwork that Irene said, I'm going to trace this organic line and see how it connects us, the present, back to that past, to understand the voids that we have to address, and the sentiments that are really structuring some of the images that are so graphic and visual to us. And she basically, in a nutshell, she was really talking about the impossibility of neutrality in that black square, and whether it was a black square above a white frame, or if it was a white frame that was there. And again, a very formal, very philosophical interpretation, as the art historian she is. And to end right now with a trigger image of the neutrality that is purported through a sans serif in a background, and of course, as Karen well noted, in alphabetical all caps, which was already addressed here, is quite gives you a sense that graphic design has a lot of work to do, as we all do, in the visual arts and at institutions, but also in the work that that we have of people working with images and signs, and the importance of resignification of signs. And because graphic design is really the mediator between a public and an institution, for us, graphic design has been a central aspect of rethinking the systems by which we can change and become more aware and more engaging with a public commitment to represent our present. So graphic design is not just a matter of whether it looks nice or not, for us, how it's made, and that's why I really enjoyed the presentation with the Workplatz graphic designers and the student collective designing Documenta graphic image from Jakarta. So the conversations of how we come to make it, whether it's the passion research that Nina Paim spoke about this morning, whether it's the love out of love and the interdependencies that Prem spoke about, and we again speak about love now, whether it's trust and a gentleman's agreement, as you say, or the professional-client relationship that we generally tend to have at one point or the other, whether because it's a patron or a policy competition that we're going through, or of course, individuals. I think that really what we're up to task is to be true to ourselves, as Sophie has said here, and really think. So how we can influence in our own way, just bringing a broader awareness of the cultural diversity that we must confront and learn from and readily coexist with. Just to end, because it's late and we've been here for 2 days, thinking with graphic designers and artists and makers in general about that mediation, I really want to thank in absentia Thomas Castro, who helped shape this conference through very casual conversations that were instrumental to identify participants, and Yin Yin, who brought, it's amazing, Yin Yin, who brought many active makers today. I tend to always have the dilemma that even if I like it, I'm always in more the academic, I'm like, no, the keynotes, let's focus art historically, but it is about partnering with people that are not just thinking reflexively, but actually in the making, like Yin Yin is, that can connect us very meaningfully to you all here. So thank you to Yin Yin. I also want to give a shout out to Pilar, who amazingly participated in the planning. Yay! Pilar is an artist, and she has been balancing her exhibition opening remotely that happened yesterday in Australia with a conference, so working day and night to accommodate all of the participants and also the public in this day. So thank you so much, Pilar, for everything. And I have to say that Jeroen Laven has been working at the institution for some years. We don't call him youngster because that word is ousted in this institution. We can no longer call anyone youngster. An emerging professional that, yay! That worked very, Jesse already left, but he came to also give you cheers, that really took on our Work Learn program. That's already in its 3rd edition, and we'll launch the 4th edition as soon as Jesse comes back from the Caribbean. But Jeroen really led the collective learning program here in practice for the last year, so that we could have not only a logo for the effective graphic design conference, but also the new identity for Kunstinstituut Meli, of which we're very happy to have the designers here in-house. Yay! So finally, to Gabby, Lynn, and Misha, I never know that. Marine, I don't ever know how to pronounce your name. For all the technical, they have very, very actively been transmitting everything online to the public that's connecting from different parts of the world, and which we're very happy to host. Thank you, Bruno, curator at the Jan van Eyck Academy, for partnering with us to also be able to promote this to your communities and to transmit it on the YouTube channel of the Jan van Eyck Academy in Maastricht. Thank you all for coming. There should be some drinks, but I think that we're really gonna close, no? And like just go eat or something, okay. Yeah, I know. They're saying, Sophia, no more. I didn't send any more WhatsApps of like, let's have more wine, but I'm really hoping that you can come and see our exhibitions. They're here for some time. They are presenting great artists from here and abroad. And we have a program tomorrow again. We have the performance, yes. Yeah, we have the performance of Joy Mariama Smith. That's going to be happening all day tomorrow from 11 to 6 p.m. For those that feel close to Joy Mariama Smith's work, which is upstairs, we'll be having drinks at Meli from 4 to 6 p.m. downstairs, and there's a training. There's also the tea, the herbal training in 84 Steps. So if you want to come and hang out with us tomorrow, we'll be here. So thank you so much all for coming.